K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level, or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
Attention Patriots, Red Nation Rising Radio is about to begin.
Please return your Republic to its original position and prepare for takeoff.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Welcome to Red Nation Rising Radio. It's the program that's all about you. It's your questions, your tweets, your chat room. Angela's there to help you out and to make sure we get your questions. So go ahead and start entering your questions for our guest tonight, Colonel Rob Maness. He's got a fabulous story, which we'll get to in a moment. I'm Lou. Say hello, Jared.
Hey, how you all doing tonight?
So welcome, everyone. We're really glad to have you. We're your guides to the reddest hour on radio. Stick around if you don't believe that, and you'll find out. Definitely the reddest hour on radio. So, holy cow, how many people in the chat room are going to kill me if I say TPA? I think I might get some death threats over that one, just using the acronym today. Are we done with this thing? I don't know. I think we're going to have to ask Colonel Maness. Maybe he can explain it to us. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, I bet he can.
Yeah,
Yes.
I bet he can. We're definitely going to ask him about it because I'm going to admit to being confused at this point. I mean, I don't even want to go into it. I definitely am not in a position to explain it to anybody else. I've given up. I did really good for a long time, but I've given up on it. But then meanwhile, we have, crazy tricks going on and retribution. And, today, thank goodness for Mark Meadows. He got returned his gavel from the subcommittee, the oversight subcommittee.
It shouldn't have been taken in the first place. Chaffetz should never have done that.
Well, and it was ridiculous, and obviously that the outcry about it was just a little bit too much for him. I mean, there's not a more likable guy in the world, I don't think, than Mark Meadows, and put him on the Freedom Caucus, and you just make him that much more likable as we're concerned. And I think that they thought. Cashiers, North Carolina was the population of that town, maybe like 8,000 at the most. I don't even know if it's that big. So we're going to take this guy and nobody will ever notice. We'll take his gavel. Nobody will notice. Nobody will care. Well, they were wrong because we noticed and we cared. Neil Cavuto noticed and he cared. And the interviews that he did with the two of them separately are hilarious. If you haven't seen them, try to find them. Go back and get Neil Cavuto's interviews with Chaffetz and with Meadows, and they're laughable. I mean, you'll die laughing. Chaffetz tries really, really hard to pull off that interview, but he just doesn't do it, and it's too funny. And Neil Cavuto's like the nicest interviewer in the world, and he still can't do it. Just distraction after distraction after distraction from what they were doing. The nuclear talks, TPA, and in the middle of the whole thing, they bring up What, Jared? The Confederate flag.
Oh, that was a convenient distraction. That really took the country by storm, huh? I mean, everyone forgot about everything for a couple days, and that's where the focus was. And it was ridiculous that they took it down, in my opinion.
Well, and it's not. I mean, you've seen my opinion on Twitter, and I'm not going to talk about it here because this show is definitely not about my opinion. But it's the fact that they brought up the most controversial symbol in the country at the moment when they needed it the most.
Yeah.
That's the thing that kills me. I don't understand what people don't understand about distraction. I don't understand how people can't get that it's a watch the birdie move. Watch the birdie over here because we don't want you to watch what we're really doing. We don't want you to be able to pay close enough attention to what we're really doing. So we're going to create some kind of distraction. It's infuriating to me as a Southern woman that they would do that. And I don't know what it means to other people because I can't put myself in their shoes. But to me, it is infuriating that they would dredge up things that so many of us have been able to come to terms with, and it's been extremely difficult. It's infuriating to me, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. And if you didn't get it before, maybe you do a little bit better now. It really hurts. It's hurtful, and they should not be doing it. So what is going on in D.C.? The whole thing has gotten crazy. These people do not get what's going on in the rest of the country.
No. So we got some tweets?
We got some tweets. Arizona, customs agents to James O'Keefe. You're being detained for investigating the federal government. What was that about?
I don't know, but when they were finished with that exchange, the customs said to O'Keefe, each time you go through here now, you'll need an extra hour because we're going to do this every time. They accused him of being a criminal for crossing the border as Osama bin Laden. I couldn't believe it.
Crossing the border was he impersonating Osama?
Yeah, he wanted to show how easy it is to get across the border. So he dressed up as Osama bin Laden with a mask, and he walked across it. They filmed the whole thing, Project Veritas, and it went viral online. So
basically, they finally got him doing something that they could trump up a charge on him for.
Yep.
Well, boy, I bet they're celebrating that one in D.C. RNR, Pennsylvania. Unbelievable stupidity. Take down the Washington Monument. Race baiting new low. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't think this was real. I mean, it's a petition at change.org, and I thought it was a joke. I saw the tweet, and I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, change.org. If I immediately delete anything, it's a liberal, progressive petition site. And causes.com, I will participate. I'm just speaking for myself. But change.org, if you ever see, very carefully look at those because there's always an agenda. It's always liberal. So,
well, it's always some crazy crap. But this is crazy for them and the way that it was worded. But the craziest thing is that they had supporters for this and that they were growing.
Yeah.
That was the craziest thing to me. That's what I couldn't comprehend. Really take down the Washington Monument.
Yeah, right. And if you go down the rabbit hole and follow the person that started it, you'd see that it's just a whole big bowl of crazy right there.
It is a whole big bowl of crazy, and it's a Louis Farrakhan move. Mississippi, watch Ted Cruz unleash. The Washington cartel conspires against Americans. This was a good read, but the reason that I put it in here as a highlighted tweet is because, we'll never really know, but you guys went at Ted Cruz hard with the TISA document, the WikiLeaks TISA document. And it was 24 hours later or less than 24 hours later that he came out with his statement. You know, it seems like it was in the middle of our blitz, maybe, or just as our blitz was beginning, his statement came out that it was TISA that was making him change his mind on TPA. I don't care who anybody else is going to give props for that. I'm giving you guys props for that. Our team, other people in the Twitter sphere, you know, you people on the radio that listen to us because of our chat room and because we're on Twitter, you did that. In my mind, I don't care what anybody else said, you did that because he came out with TISA. It says, now I've looked at this document. It just seems very coincidental. So our featured blog this week is Angela Sanders because she wrote about everything that we were doing and that you were doing, that other people were doing, and the videos and the vines from South Carolina that we all appreciate. So give that blog a read. Give yourself a hand. Things have been moving. Some things have been changing, and I got to give you the props for it. So tonight we have Colonel Rob Maness. I believe Maness. It's different where I come from. Sorry about that, Colonel.
Thank you.
I believe he's on the phone with us. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing well. Thank you very much. And we're just really, really honored and really excited to have you here. We're going to be talking about some really interesting topics and some things that have been going on over the past few weeks. And we're going to cut to break first. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Colonel Rob Maness.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberservative conservatism.
Where no one is safe, no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com. The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get sad again.
And we're
Welcome back. Oh, I'm sorry, Jared. Welcome back, Colonel Maness. We still have you?
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Before we get too far into our conversation, there's something that I'm dying to know. Were you ever, if you can tell us with all security in place, did you ever fly out of Robins Air Force Base in Warner Robins, Georgia?
Once or twice, but not as a permanent assignment.
Okay, and the reason is I grew up on Lake Blackshear, which is not far from there, and I watched some really interesting, really fun. It's in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, and sometimes the most exciting thing that would happen all week was, when they would buzz the lake, and
yeah.
And that was great. And I was wondering if maybe you were one of helmets that I caught in the cockpit when I was growing up. So I was really interested to ask you that question. So welcome. I'm really, really glad to have you, especially knowing that at least once or twice you've been in my old stomping ground. So that's really great. We have so many things that we want to talk to you about tonight, and we'll have some questions coming out of our chat room. I know there's going to be some great questions for you, so we're ready to get started. And I can't help but start, and our guys are going to kill me for staying on this topic, but I can't not ask you about TPA and TPP and TP whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has been so interesting, and I'm fascinated to hear what you think, as a defender of liberty, about the process, not so much the agreement. I care about the agreements and the bills, but the process was disturbing.
Well, and that's, first of all, let me clarify that, like almost all conservatives that I know, I'm a free trade person. I believe in it. I believe in the free market. I have a libertarian streak because I believe in the United States Constitution, and the free market's the best way to prosperity in my mind for all individual Americans, regardless of how they're born and what station in life they're born into. But TPA, the Trade Promotion Authority, and TAA, the Trade Adjustment Assistance Bill, the process that was used at the beginning of those two, and then the process for this Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP trade bill, being held in secret and classified, and not very many our members in Congress having read it, all is very disturbing to me, especially TPA, because the TPA is is the fast track authority for the president. Why in the world would this Republican Congress, after all the battles that we fought at the grassroots level to put Republicans in charge of both houses of Congress, with overwhelming success, bigger majorities than in, I think, 85 or 86 years in both houses of Congress, and then they want to give this particular president more executive power and remove the power of Congress and the requirement for a 2/3 vote to approve the treaty. I'm sorry, but I don't care what their reasoning is. They haven't put a valid one up, from what I can see, for their desire to give this president that authority. And it's just very, very disturbing to me too. And I don't support it. And if I had been in the Senate, instead of the two opponents that I ran against day before yesterday, there would not have been cloture on TPA, and therefore there wouldn't have been a vote that would have allowed it to pass, because this president is not going to he wouldn't get any more executive authority as far as I'm concerned if I were in office. So that's a big deal for this particular president.
Yeah, and it is, and it's a big deal for any president, really, because it's a legislative seating. It's the legislature ceding power to the executive, and not only is it what are they thinking, but it's also what gives you the right. Really, it's not what gives you the right on behalf of the American people that obviously don't want you to do this. Everything you look at shows you that neither side. It's the one time, or one of the very few times, that our group, our conservative, libertarian, liberty-loving group of patriots ever agreed with Democrats on Twitter. I mean, there was more harmony over this than... I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. And the surprising thing was the TAA bill that initially the Republican House leadership, negotiated that the TAA bill had to pass with the TPA in order for both to go to the president. Well, the TAA is nothing more than welfare. It's government assistance. That's the first problem that I had with it, and so did Heritage Action when they did their analysis on it. They put in a key vote no out on both bills because of that. But why tie that to it And then, unbelievably, I still am in disbelief about this, the Democrats were the ones that defeated that. They're usually the ones that want to give as much of our tax dollars away to anybody that can get them as possible.
Well,
but when you think about TAA, and you think about the excuses and the talking points the Republican leadership has used and the president has used for the desire to have a passing TPP bill, my question is, if the TPP is so good for the American worker and the American farmer and the American manufacturer and small and large businesses, then why do we have to have a trade adjustment assistance welfare bill to be paid out to those companies and businesses and people that lose their jobs and their livelihoods because of the trade partnership? I mean, come on, there's got to be a better way.
Right, exactly, and you won't let us read it. So, if there was anything good in it, I know you would be showing it to me, right? Exactly.
So in this environment where we have the largest amount of distrust from the people that I've seen in my lifetime towards the United States government and the Congress, why do anything in secret unless it's absolutely necessary to do that? And it's not necessary to keep that bill secret. It's been being negotiated for a long, long, long time. And the worst thing that they could do is keep it a secret and let rumors continue to swirl around it. And I think that's what caused the problems, and that's going to continue to cause challenges for the Republican leadership now that they've given the president this additional executive power, because that's passed now. And as I said, it shouldn't have passed, not for this particular president. And then they're going to go ahead and look at TPP. And you watch, they won't need 60 votes. So some of those folks that voted for cloture on TPA won't vote for TPP because it'll turn out to be a bad bill. As Senator Sessions said, it's going to leak out over the 60 to 90 days, and it's going to come out in slow drips, and they're going to see how bad of a bill that TPP is. But in the end, the predictions that are out there is that they'll pass because they'll say something like, well, we've got to be able to compete with China and those kind of things, so we've got to accept this agreement. And they'll be able to pass it with this 51 votes.
Right, and Angela Sanders from our chat room, she put in the point that Boehner had attached the firefighters and law enforcement riders to the bill in the House, and what a dirty trick that was. And maybe you might have a take on that.
Well, he's still acting like it's 1990s or 1980s, and like we're still living in a society, in a political era where you can trust your other opposition party members, but not anybody else. That's the way he's behaving, and he's using strong arm tactics. He's using extortion, is the word some might use to describe that activity. He's punishing folks for voting against a simple rule vote, and I just think it's the wrong way to go about business, and it's certainly not leadership, which is what he's paid to do.
Right, exactly. It sounds like a bad episode of House of Cards, a little bit. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So one thing that our team, one thing that our team is really interested in is Vitter's Senate seat that's opening up. But we also saw that NOLA, back in March, was entertaining the idea that you might challenge Scalise. And, we're all really in love with him now, sarcastically, based on what he did to his whip team, which was a really nice thing to do. I mean, that was some great retribution we saw play out there. So everybody's really interested in what you're going to do and what your next move is.
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, and your chat room observers are aware, I live in Steve Scalise's district. But Senator David Vitter is our conservative senator that's left in Louisiana. And he's running for governor this year. and he's been leading in the polls since he announced, and he's leading in fundraising, and he's leading, from what I can see, as an organization. So he's likely to win that seat. And I asked for a meeting with him a few months ago and sat down with him and let him know that I'm extremely interested in running for his seat if he wins the governor's race, or if he decides, if the seat becomes open, if he decides not to run again. He said that we've got a good base to start from based on our last campaign and the super PAC that we created after that called Gator PAC. It's still active and continuing to grow. And so we're interested in that, and I think we've got as good a shot as anybody else that is considering running in that race.
I had that on the list of questions, but since you brought it up, let's just go ahead and get to it. Tell us a little bit about Gator PAC and what your objectives are and what you've been doing, and what drove you to start the PAC. I know you had help from Vitter and some other senators, and where are you trying to go with it? What are your goals?
Well, Gator PAC, as you may be aware, it's a hybrid super PAC, so it can take unlimited donations and one side of it, the super PAC side, and then it can help candidates at the local, state, and federal level on the other side, and there are campaign donation limitations based on that. But it can do issues, fights, or campaigns, and support candidates, and that's what we're doing. It's really its mission is to give a vehicle to liberty-minded citizens that have the teeth and the tools to come together and take our government back from the career politicians. Our country wasn't designed to be operated by career politicians, and we've got this political class that's risen, and I think that's why you're seeing behaviors out of its so-called leaders in the House and Senate right now. So, as I said, it's a hybrid super PAC. We're recruiting and assisting constitutional conservative candidates that were like me, that were not politically connected, didn't have a lot of money, so we want to help them. And we're working to inspire and recruit conservative activist leaders to join our statewide organization. When we left the Senate campaign, we had a statewide organization, and we used Gator PAC to keep that organization together as a vehicle to help and try and fight and win on issues that we care about and for candidates that we care about. As you may be aware, like I just said a minute ago, 2015 is an election cycle for state level and local level elections in the state of Louisiana, so we've been operating on that. I mean, basically, Washington, D.C. is a swamp, and it's time to drain the swamp and get rid of the gators, which are the career politicians.
Oh, that's great. I just took the Louisiana reference and ran with it, but I like that analogy. Say that again. DC's a swamp, and it's time to drain the swamp and get rid of the gators.
Gator PAC's motto is if Washington, D.C. is a swamp, then career politicians are the gators, and it's time to drain the swamp.
Drain the swamp. Well, you have to drain the swamp from time to time if it doesn't do it on its own. If it doesn't get dry enough to do it on its own, every now and then you got to do it and clear the stumps too.
That's right. Gator PAC's done a lot of good work this election cycle. We supported the Get Out of Common Core effort in Louisiana that's been successful so far. I testified on behalf of the Religious Freedom Protection Act that was attempted to be passed in the state legislature to protect folks that believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. I supported the Paycheck Protection Act, just like Texas tried to pass, that keeps unions from being able to collect their dues based on taxpayer resources. And we continue to fight for conservative causes in that. And we're raising money, and we're fighting for and protecting the Second Amendment. We've got a gun giveaway going on right now. We've got an AR-15 that we're going to give away that we're raising money for. You can go to GatorPAC.com. That's GATORPAC.com. And you can sign up. It's $10 a raffle ticket, and there's some good deals on the if you want to buy more than one ticket for that. That's going to go till July 16th.
And it sounds like a great win, too, if you win it.
Yeah, it is a great win. It's going to be a good deal.
Yeah, sounds good. So back to where I was going to go, and I'm glad that, it's really exciting to hear that there are constitutional conservatives. There are liberty-minded people, like we talk about, patriots, that are coming together and banding together to, fight the kind of thing that we saw in Washington over the past few weeks. You have 35 years of military service, is that right?
32 and a half.
32 and a half, so nearly 35. So, and at that point, the last 2.5 years, thank you very much for your service. You're with a group of people right now that probably appreciates it as much or more than anybody. And the service of your family too, 'cause military families, they all make a sacrifice. Your wife,
That's
your
right.
kids, every single one of you. So we appreciate that very much, Colonel.
Well, thank you.
How could someone that's already served their country for 3.5 years, what would motivate you and drive you to get into politics? Was it what you were seeing happening around you?
Well, the same thing that drives me to keep Gator Pack growing and to use that as a tool to help other candidates and eventually to as a war chest for my next run for the U.S. Senate that Senator Ritter wins, and that is our country is based on the individual being able to have liberty that's given to us by our Creator and be prosperous, because the country's government is supposed to be limited enough to create an environment of prosperity for business and success, whether it's individual or by organization or whatever, and then to be strong enough to provide the certainty to keep our people free and to keep our allies from being threatened or harmed in the world. As we grew through the 20th century, we realized we needed to have that capability. So liberty, prosperity, and certainty. When I looked around after I'd been out of the Air Force for 2 years and I saw what was happening with this passage of laws like Obamacare, where not one Republican voted for it, they couldn't even get the most liberal Republican to vote for the law. And when you see a law like that passed by the progressive side of our society and is imposed upon the rest of the citizens of society and our businesses, and you see the destruction that's occurring with millions of people losing their insurance, businesses having to shut their doors or not hire as many people or even fire people because they got the wrong number of employees and those kinds of things. That's not the country that I fought for. The country that I fought for is one that where people are free. They're free to speak their mind. And today, as you can see, I fought under the flag of the United States of America for 32 and a half years, and I also strongly support the First Amendment and freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and that those things are being attacked every moment of every day now in our country, and that's not the country that I fought for, and it's not the country that I want my grandchildren and my children to inherit from me. So I have a compelling, not desire, but a compelling need to continue service in this capacity to try to have a positive outcome on the future of America so that it looks more like what it's supposed to look, and it follows the law of our land, which is the Constitution of the United States, instead of having politicians that don't follow the law of our land.
Right. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back from the break. We're going to take 2 minutes, and we'll be back with Colonel Rob Maness.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
The feeling most people get when they hear Barack Obama speech, I felt this thrill going up my leg. I don't have that too often.
Steady.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. Ricky Robinson, host of America Off the Rails, will tackle the important issues facing America today as he tries to keep America from coming off the track. Get ready to hear the truth every Monday through Friday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central.
here on K98Talk.com and the Spark Radio Network.
Welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy.
Abolish the IRS. Take all 125,000 IRS agents and put them on our southern border.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride. Both ends of the ozone burning. Funny how the world keeps turning. Look, Mom, no hands. I love this American.
Welcome back. We're here with Colonel Rob Maness. Welcome back, Colonel.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, you were talking about what America is supposed to look like. Well, where can we go from here? You know, as a student, I remember, studying what America did look like. I know the stories from my grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers. I think I have an idea of what things used to look like. And I know for certain it's not the same. How do we get back to that?
Well, getting back to the simple concepts of liberty, prosperity, and certainty is not difficult. We have the framework in the United States Constitution for a government that can reinvigorate all three of those concepts. The president doesn't even need much help from the other two branches of service to recreate the certainty that the United States of America used to have until his last 6 years in office, that we were able to provide a strong national defense and a strong ally for the freedom-loving peoples of the world. And now, based on his philosophy, he's weakened us so much that we're under attack even by the smallest of groups that have very limited capability. And we've seen the emergence of very, very strong terrorist groups that have become a nation, a self-described nation, the Islamic State. While it may not be recognized by the rest of the community of nations, it is a self-described nation. It owns territory. It brings in revenue, it has expenditures, it has a defense force and an offensive military force, has a police force, it creates electrical power, it has communications capabilities, and so it is a nation, and that's emerged because of America's weakness in the world. When America is weak, it leaves a vacuum that's going to be filled by evil invariably, and that's what is happening in the Middle East. That's what's happening in the eastern part of Europe with the emergence of this aggressive Russia that we've seen under President Putin. That's what's happening in the Pacific region with the emergence of China, who is not only wanting to be a regional peer competitor or a regional hegemonic power, but be a competitor with the United States as a whole on a global basis, from what I can see. So we're under this stress. And from a national security perspective, the president has it within his power to take care of that business. But he refuses to do that. And the Congress has not been much help in that area either. They, in our Republican Congress, have refused to even take up a bill on whether we should actually have a declaration of war against the Islamic State, who is at war with everyone almost. But unless we identify the enemy and we have a good debate in Congress, and our Congress signs the United States up to that, then we're not doing the right things by our allies or by ourselves, or especially by the young men and women that will end up fighting for the United States of America, whether there's a declaration of war or not. And those things continue to make us weaker and weaker. And the Congress bears some responsibility, and the president overall bears most of the responsibility for this really amateurish strategy or lack of one that he's put in place.
As Commander-in-Chief, he should be willing to take total responsibility, should he not?
Oh, I believe that, but I don't believe that he understands what it means to be the Commander-in-Chief of the greatest armed forces of the free world.
No, I don't either.
And you could see that by the types of generals and admirals that have been forced to leave the service over the years, in the last few years. Now, some of them have made some huge errors, committed crimes, and needed to leave, but others have just left because they were either fed up or they felt like they were being forced out. Their views weren't being listened to. We've lost a lot of our intellectual capacity from a military perspective, I think, from the very senior levels of the U.S. Armed Forces. That's unfortunate because we need those men and women.
Right. To me, sometimes I always wonder what the why is behind the action. But to me, sometimes it's almost overwhelming to contemplate what the why might be behind that, because it's either stupidity or it's on purpose. And if it's on purpose, that's pretty scary. Our armed forces, our service members deserve better, for sure.
And unfortunately, there's no evidence on whether it's by accident or on purpose, but either way, it's scary. It doesn't matter whether it's on purpose or not. If it's by accident, it's almost even worse, because that means there's no thought being put into the personnel policies and the makeup of the U.S. Armed Forces. And that makes all the difference in the world in an all-volunteer professional military force that's, while smaller, more capable than any force that's ever been fielded. Even now, as weak as it might be, it's still stronger than anything else in the world.
Right, and you said the key word, it's a volunteer force, and, the finest in the world, and most nations don't have the luxury of having a volunteer military and having the strongest military in the world, and it's a volunteer military. I mean, that says a lot about America. Still, regardless of what our politicians are doing, who we are. So we're still, to your previous point, we can get there. That you made me feel a lot better about that. We are still America. Look around at our veterans, our military members, people, liberty-loving people. We are still America, regardless of what's happening inside the Beltway.
I agree. And in the other two areas of liberty and prosperity, prosperity is linked to national security, or national security is linked to the prosperity piece of it, because we can't continue to be $19 trillion in debt and deficit spend and buy things that we really can't afford and still maintain the best armed forces in the world and all these policies, or even rebuild them if we continue to go down this road of debt and inflationary monetary policy that will eventually catch up to us at that level first. So we've got to really take a hard look at our economic policies and our monetary policy. I, for one, am a big fan of auditing the Fed. It's never been fully audited. It doesn't have the right oversight by Congress. And it needs to have better policies, quite frankly, and the policies that it's pursuing are eventually going to burst as the balloon that they are, and it's going to hurt all of us. So we do need to get that under control.
It's pretty ironic that the Federal Reserve has never been audited, yet every publicly traded company gets audited pretty much yearly, right?
Yeah. They
have to do their own audits.
Say it's never... I misspoke if I said it's never been audited. It's been audited in partial ways. I think the assistance program portions of it for the bailouts, I think were required to be audited, but it's never had 100% audit that's been accountable to the Congress.
You spoke correctly. You said fully audited. So that was me that paraphrased you incorrectly. Sorry about that. So
that's okay.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of distractions really from some very important issues. The nuclear talks with Iran, pretty much they've pretty much been buried in the news. If the Ayatollah steps out to say something, it's covered. Other than that, nobody's really talking about what's going on with the nuclear. And it's going to pop up. I know I'm going to wake up one morning and, we have a deal signed with Iran that no one has ever seen.
That's exactly right. And it will be a deal that weakens America, weakens our allies, weakens Israel, and leaves Iran on a path to fielding of a nuclear arsenal, and a nuclear arsenal in the hands of those theocratic dictators, the Ayatollahs of Iran, which are who really run that country. The whole parliament and the president, all those are just for show. The real power is in the Ayatollah and his immediate council, and a nuclear arsenal in those hands will be used. It will be used against us. It will be used against anybody that crosses their ideology and what they view that the world should become, which is a Muslim caliphate. I'm not attacking American Muslims or anything by saying that. It's just the way Islam is. Their goal in Iran and the goal in the Islamic State is to create a theocracy that's not a religion, but a theological way of governance, which is in direct contrast and opposed to the United States form of government under our Constitution and what we believe in Creator's law and natural law.
Yes, absolutely. I was watching a couple of your videos preparing. Several things that you said stood out to me, as being natural law and being really core to your values, which means a lot to me. It means a lot to me, and I think that when you're at that place of really being a liberty-loving constitutional American, that you do have that strong sense of natural law, and the fact that and I think maybe it was Augustine that put it this way the first time, that God gives you freedom of will, therefore it's no man or no government has the right to take it away from you. And that's a loose paraphrase there. And you really seem to believe that.
And that's true. And I use the term natural law. Sometimes I use the words creator's law, because the founders used that in the Declaration of Independence, which in my opinion is the foundation of the United States of America as far as the first legal document the United States ever produced.
Yes.
But the concept of natural law, all of the Bill of Rights stems from that right for a human being to have life and security. Life, liberty, the liberty of being able to live, to being able to protect themselves through the Second Amendment, to be able to speak their mind through the First Amendment, and free to, without fear of oppression or to take away your ability to live or be secure in your home, free to worship how they want and speak how they want, regardless of whether it offends somebody or not. As long as we're not hurting each other physically, we have to abide by that. And that's what our whole structure is built on. And to get back to that liberty piece of liberty, prosperity, and certainty, without protecting those things and being consistent about it, we end up in the situations that we are in today. It's why I'm opposed to hate crimes legislation in the United States. And I know Republicans, including the Republican I ran against in the Senate race, voted for hate crimes legislation. But there's no need for that, because it's the crime and the heinousness of the crime, regardless of what the person was thinking, that needs to be punished in a court of law if that's what they committed. So we have to be consistent in protecting our liberties. That's why the abortion issue is so contentious. That is why the things like this flag issue in South Carolina, from a broad perspective, can be so contentious, is because there's a lack of consistency in understanding natural law. And I think it's incumbent upon all Americans, and it's a natural responsibility or duty. In addition to natural rights, we have natural duties under natural law, and we don't often talk about those. It's a natural duty to be consistent in applying those liberties and protecting those liberties for all, whether we agree with the person or not. On the other side, it's our responsibility and duty to protect their liberty to have them. So we have to get better, I think, at teaching our children how to understand that as adults participating in the political process, so that we Americans that love liberty and believe in the Constitution have the majority and have the say and we have to get back to that and fight for that and win that and take it away from the career politicians who believe in husbanding and protecting their power regardless of what party they're in. And that's what I believe has been happening over the last 70 years.
Absolutely, because if you want that to be your job forever, then your primary goal is to protect your incumbency, and that is pretty much it. That is number one in your book. It's just like any other person with a job. They want to protect their job. They want to stay employed. And if that's what you think of it is your career, then that's what you'll do. Colonel Maness, I'm so sorry that I have to say farewell. But my time with you's up. And it always goes so fast. It's the fastest part of the show. It's the longest part of the show. And the fastest part of the show is the interview because it's my favorite part. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. You have your opportunity for any closing words or final thoughts, or the last word is yours.
Well, we want to put constitutional conservatives in office. The more we have in office, the more we can achieve liberty, prosperity, and certainty. My next opportunity is to try to fill Senator David Vitter's Senate seat next year in 2016. We need funds to go into Gator PAC so that we can build that war chest to help other candidates and eventually to help a candidacy that I might be able to have. So help us raise that money. You can go to gatorpac.com and make a donation. Buy a raffle ticket for the AR-15. Every $10 ticket helps us, and we've got to build it fast. We need to raise $1.5 million by the end of November of this year. That's my personal goal, and I know we can do it. We raised $3 million in my Senate race in only 18 months. So we can get it done, and the people of America will put another constitutional conservative that will stand up and fight. And as we saw by the Supreme Court ruling today, the only way out of a law like Obamacare is to repeal it, repeal it, repeal it. And that takes a fight, the courage to stand up against your leadership, and the courage to stand up for the people and against political parties that are trying to protect themselves and their power.
Well, that sounds good, and some of the people in our chat room really want you to help find a challenger for Scalise. They said that. I didn't. Not that I don't agree with them, but I don't share my opinion because the show's not about my opinion. But there's really some people out there that want you to help find a challenger for him. I think they're pretty angry with him about what he did with the WHIP committee. So we look forward to having you back again, Colonel Maness, if you'll come. And we certainly enjoyed talking to you tonight. And I think we're going to skip the break for just a minute, and we'll be back with a wrap-up of the show. Thank you again, Colonel Maness, for joining us, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
K98Talk.com, a leader in Internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
I like America because it has good people.
A spirit that you can't keep down, a fire inside that'll never burn out.
All right, we're back for just a minute to close up this show. That was a great conversation that we had with Colonel Maness, don't you think, Jared? Didn't you love that?
Yes, it was. Excellent.
Yeah, what an amazing man.
He is.
Wow.
He is.
Yeah, he wouldn't admit to buzzing my house, though. I don't know. Maybe that was his helmet I saw in one of those cockpits there. So we just appreciate him coming on so much, and we were so happy and honored to have him. I want to talk about being honored. We're honored to have each and every one of you on our team, listening to our show, tweeting with us on Twitter. We have 50,000 followers, and we have done some of the most amazing blitzes. You guys have been all over our elected so-called representatives. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not so much. But we think we might actually be making a difference. And I think the louder we get, the bigger difference we make. So, yeah, we just really can't thank you enough. it's all we can do really is band together, and you guys are amazing at banding together. And I think that, sometimes it's a careful what you wish for situation, and they've awakened a sleeping tiger, and the time is going to come when they're not real happy that they made that wake-up call. So, we're looking forward to that day. Next week we will have Brad McQueen. Jared, do you want to say anything about having him on?
He wrote the book Cult the Common Core. He was one of the teachers in Chicago that was in on when they wrote the standards, and they locked him out of the room, and he exposed a lot. So I encourage you to listen, because he really paid a price for exposing it too. Here in Arizona as a teacher, they really hammered him. But before we go, we should mention the Western Conservative Summit, Lou. Conservative Voice of the People.
Jared.
Yeah, CV_people. Her site is conservativevoiceofthepeople.com. She's in Colorado. She's going to be at the summit. Last year she interviewed Alan West, and she'll be updating from the summit. So let's retweet her and let's get the word out on what she's doing. She's going to have some great updates from there.
And our friend that's up next after us, Stacey Lennox, is also at the Western Conservative Summit. She and JD are coming up next on K98 Talk from 9 to 10 every week after us. And we will be back here next week with Brad McQueen. So we look forward to seeing you in the chat room Thursday night, 8 p.m., right here on K98 Talk.
See you next week.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic